Okay, so it's about 42 degrees outside. It's cold. And I thought I'll do some work on the damaged wind deflector on my Mercedes SL500. As you can see, there were some pretty severe holes in it, and I sat on the forums for a while looking at people's ideas on how to fix things and looking at second-hand units that you can buy, and they're all sitting up about, you know, $200 marks. So I thought, well, why not give it a shot? And then there was a post about somebody that said they'd gone to Lowe's and they'd bought some material and managed to fix there. So I thought I'll give it a shot. After all, it's pretty cold outside, so I might as well try and do something inside. The hardest part about this is trying to get the original screen material out, and it sort of scares the bejesus out of me because eventually I got frustrated and I got a Stanley knife and I cut the material away. And I didn't know whether I could get anything like this as a replacement, and I had to be pretty brutal when it came to digging what is a retainer. It's a plastic retainer. I'm not sure if the camera is picking this up. It's a real weird sort of shape, and it fits that trap perfectly, and it punches down into it and locks everything in place. But the thing about this is that it does it because the screen material is actually bonded to it. So it's not like normal screen materials where you put the material in the track and then you force some kind of tubing or some kind of rubberized material in there to hold, and then you'll go around the edge with a Stanley knife and you'll trim the excess material off. This Mercedes-Benz proprietary screen material is actually bonded to this rubber retainer, and I'll tell you now, this screen is 20 years old, and some of this is no longer rubber. Some of this is turned into carbon, and it's hard and it breaks, and it took quite a bit of digging and prying to get the material out. And I mean, some of you can probably do this neater than I have, and some of you probably get all fussy and go out and get some emery paper or emery cloth and clean that up and paint it and all that. My main priority here is to see if this can be fixed, and if it can, then I might actually take this out and do it again, and do it. And as you say, once you've done something once and you do it again, you always pick up on the shortcuts and the better ways of doing it. So what I'm going to do now, well, actually, hold on. So what I did, and I'll tell everybody if this works or not. So what I did was I went down to Lowe's and I bought some of this screen door material. It was probably the best I could say. I'm not sure if you can see the weave of it. And I bought some of this, what do they call it? Spline. That's right. They call it screen spline. Now this is the 0.125 of an inch by 25 feet, or if you're metric like I am, it's 0.32 centimeters by 7.6 meters. There's plenty here. You could do probably, I don't know, 5 screens or 4 screens out of this stuff. It wasn't very expensive. This was only about $3 or $4, maybe $5 at most, and the screen was about, because I got the extra strength, ultra resistant, whatever. Yeah, I got the extra strength, which was at about $1.50 more than the. So this was about $9.70 for this. Once again, 36 inches, which is going to give me plenty to do the 2 screens. I can cut it in half, and I've got plenty in reserve, and it's 7 feet long. So, you know, this screen is just over 3 feet. So I got plenty here to experiment and whatever. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay it out, and I'm going to do some cutting, and I'll come back and show you what I've done. So I was going to come back and show you the process. I'm not going to focus too much on this screen, which is now complete, because I had some technical difficulties with the camera, and I lost a lot of footage. So what I'll do is I'll concentrate on working on the smaller, lower screen, and I'll show you what I've done. So what I ended up doing, I pretty much split the roll of screen material in half, and I cut enough to cover the screen. As you can see there, it fits across. So give yourself a little bit extra, like maybe 2 or 3 inches on each side. That'll give you something to hold on to and stretch the material. Plus it's not going to end up coming up short in case you don't get things right. You got a little bit extra to work with. And once you've done that, it's basically going to be a question of feeding the material in and working it, working into the groove with this tool. Now, as I said previously, but I lost the footage, one of the things I did make a mistake on is I skimped on this tool, and as you can see, just doing the previous screen, it's starting to come apart. A bit of false economy here, folks. I mean, if you're fixing a $200 wind deflector that goes on a fairly neat convertible that people notice, you really don't want to skimp $3 on a tool. Bit of false economy on my part, but you live and learn. I won't do that again. Anyway, I'll lay this out and I'll start it and I'll show you how you go about the process. Okay, now one of the things I did want to show you very quickly, when you're cutting this thing, because it's got a square weave through the material, you don't need to actually cut. All you do is you put an open blade on the section you want to cut, and I'm going to try and do this with one hand. You essentially just run the I don't know if you can see that. You just run the scissors straight through. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quickly is don't try and feed this in one continuous length. What I did was I cut pretty much a piece that length and I fed that in, and then I worked around the edges with another piece, probably up to about here, just to get around that bend. And then there was another piece that I used across here, and so on. If you try to do it in one length, you're not going to stretch the material correctly. And that's the other thing, you can undo this. This material is made of nylon. I think it's made of nylon. Let me just see. I don't want to lead you astray here. It's made of I actually think it's made of fiberglass. I did see somewhere that it's made of fiberglass. Screen, no, it doesn't actually say, but I'm pretty sure it's made of a form of fiberglass, and it is very forgiving. Unless you take to it with a knife, you can insert it into the groove and take it out and do it again over and over again until you get it right. And as I said, you are dealing with the material that has a pattern through it. So if you get it wrong, you're going to end up, and I'm exaggerating here, but you're going to end up with this sort of stretched, and you can see, I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up, you're going to end up with this stretched look, which is going to kill your finished product. It's a bit tricky. Because I couldn't get the roller underneath that lip there, I ended up having to take out the springs from the hinges. So I could lay this out flat, and then really carefully, because remember I said this material is pretty strong, but it's not that strong. You can poke a hole through it with the screwdriver. very carefully, I cut myself a length of spline, the length of this long straight piece, pretty much until I got to the bend. And then with the screwdriver, I fed it in gently. It's easy along here, but when you get up to here, you can't get a little bit of flex in the aluminum. So I had to feed it in really carefully. Now what I'll do is I'll go back and make sure that that's poked in well. I can tell you now, it ain't going to be as nice as the other screen, because it's a lot harder to sort of squeeze it in rather than roll it in. The roller does a really good job, but we'll persist. Okay, so it's taking a lot of effort, but it can be done. Pretty happy with this corner. This has taken me almost 3/4 of an hour. It's basically a case of trial and error. You feed it in, you look at it, you don't like it, you pull it out, you start again, you pull it out, you start again, eventually you'll get it. So perseverance, people. A long way to go. Okay, well, we're almost there. One of the strange things I noticed, once you get it lined and rolling, it actually starts to happen pretty quick. It's just getting that initial, like I said, this bit here, I'm going to probably have to work on it a little bit more before I cut the material. But once I got it started, it seemed to work in, especially this piece here. It just sank in without even a second go. It was just first time and it dropped straight in. Anyway, I'll get this all buttoned up and then I'll give you a final look at the finished product. Okay, so one of the things I want to go through quickly is, once you've got it all set in the track and everything's, you're happy with it, trimming it is real easy. Remember I spoke about the pattern and the fact that if you set on one of the squares and work your blade across, it'll do it. So all I do is I just get a kitchen knife, fairly sharp, and I run the blade along here and it just separates. I'm running along the same track of the weave of the product, so it just comes away. Gotta be a little bit careful around the edges here. If you get it wrong, you will cut the you cut the material that you've set in, but other than that, just an easy trim. Okay, so wrapping this up, here's the finished article. It took me about maybe 3 hours, and like I said, I did this on purpose because I'm using no special tools. I went down to Lowe's, I bought myself some mesh. There's the offcuts on the floor. Bought myself a spline roller and a bit of spline, and this is the end result. Is it perfect? Hell no. Will it work? Well, we'll see. For the purists out there, yes, it's not perfect. There's bits here that are less than perfect and haven't been tucked in correctly. I don't have the Mercedes-Benz fancy little plastic doodads that go over there. But compared to the screen I had with great big cuts and so on in multiple spots, it's 100 times better. Now the problem is it's 35 degrees outside and I ain't dropping the top to go for a test drive. So we'll test it when the weather gets a bit warmer. But in the meantime, cheap repair. If anyone wants theirs done, once again, I'll put a link in the bottom of the video here, and certainly get in touch with me. I'll either talk you through it, or I'll happily send me your screen and I'll happily rebuild it for you. Once again, thank you for watching, and subscribe if you found it interesting and helpful, because I'll be putting up a whole heap of videos in the future. Thank you.